is the community element. Now, this is the fun one. Right? This is so this is us basically trying to understand, do research, and understand what, if anything, the community would want to see, and concerns that the community has. So logistically, what this will look like is probably two sort of bigger workshops. One that's more focused on kind of some of the physical site issues, right? So are there any things physically that people would want, either in the school building, on the schoolyard, or up at the reservoir? Are there really concerns that people have, like some of those that have been voiced about things that need to, what people would want to have stay the way that they are? And some of it will also be, more of these procedural elements, right? We're worried that there's going to be noise on weeknights. What do we need to do to put that in place? We need to know those concerns so that we can make some plans for them. Whether it's about where students are going to be, what times of day, scheduling, that kind of stuff. Security issues are real. So that will have to be something that goes in the proposal. But I do think that in the big picture, having some amount of presence in a site like that will deter, drug users and vandals and things like that. The site needs, get a picture of community desires, wishes, concerns, right? And then we sort of go into planning and drafting mode. And this is where we work with experts, again, sort of hyphae on the physical design front, and ourselves working through sort of the legal elements and structural and procedural elements and the organizations to try to put together this final proposal. So during these 2 to 3 months where we're sort of trying to digest and put all these things together into a cohesive and comprehensive plan, opportunity to give feedback once we have something sort of more concrete to show. We're hoping in that way we can have public discussions, figure out if there's still rough edges that needs to be polished. And then eventually, we hope to have this proposal that we feel like is sort of our best bet at putting together what we think we can make happen if these three organizations work together, and exactly how we propose to do that. I'm sorry? The cost? Sure. So the way that this program works is it's basically a need-based sliding scale, and the full paying tuition is $26,000 for a semester, which is obviously an exorbitant amount of money. And the reason it is so expensive is because 30% of that revenue goes to subsidize students who can't afford that much. So it's, the average private school usually gives around 15 to 20% of their revenue back to financial aid. We're trying to double that because what we really care about is making this an accessible program. And we also really believe that the environmental sort of crisis that we all face is one of the few things that affects everyone in the world, and that we really need to be able to come together to work on. So sort of both for the abstract social justice cause, but also really on an academic and programmatic level, we sort of believe that we have to bring people from different walks of life together so that they can learn and work together to solve this issue.
This is nonprofit?
Yeah, with tuition revenue, even though it sounds really over the top in terms of some of these figures, most of them rely on their endowments. Luckily, we have a retired CFO from the Athenian School, which is out in Danville, who's helped us sort of rework the whole business model so that we really can help students who can't afford home. That was sort of our #1 priority when building the business model. Like I said, if we were in it to get rich, there are way easier, smarter things to do than try to start semester education programs. Yeah, so Genevieve was very nice to put some of the information that we had at the in-home information sessions up in it really 24/7. And so you can see on our sample schedule, the kids are booked and supervised from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day, whether it's doing chores, whether it's doing work on the site, whether it's being in their courses, whether it's doing their homework and studying. And then on top of that, we're taking them on trips to really enjoy kind of all the incredible things going on in this region.
It's after 10 p.m. One of the
not going to be like bell rings at 3:30, let's go outside and smoke dope in the street, right? This is like, the kids are booked, and the whole point of them being here is to be fully immersed in what's going on. you know, like, so we're not really inventing that model, right? So you can go to Napa and you can sit outside of the Oxbow school and see if you ever see a student leave their campus. And then you won't, because they're just so busy, right? And that's sort of the whole point of this kind of program. So no one is walking around, no one's wandering around. One of the nice perks of a small town is if you see a kid wandering through your yard, call me up on the phone and say, hey, should someone be wandering through my yard? I say, no, thank you so much, I'm on our way.
I
Right?
can call the sheriff, I'm not gonna.
That's fine. But yeah, the answer to your question is no. I mean, the kids are occupied, going to sleep, planned activities, out on trips with us. Yeah, there's no free run. Are you asking me if it's going to reduce food aggregates?
I'm telling the people here right now,
Our sewer cost.
is it going to reduce our taxes?
I don't have a solid answer to that question right now.
No, I don't expect you.
Inside of a national park, and they put in something called a living machine, which is basically a set of very carefully designed greenhouses and certain types of plants that filter all of their sewage and put it right into the river that's in the middle of this national park, totally regulated by the EPA, and has actually drastically improved the water quality that's coming out as compared to like a traditional sewer plant. That's obviously a really big different example, but I'm just trying to sort of offer that they're actually, the reason people do this sort of interesting innovative work, right, is because there are certain things that can be done that would, for example, improve the water quality. The public utility district in San Francisco, their building just got one of these living machines. Same thing, handles and treats all the water, gray water and sewage water inside of their building in order to provide it cleaner
So
than
you have a lot of money to put in that way.
money to do something that doesn't have any buy-in yet. So we have funders that have helped us so far and are helping to fund this research. For the actual, if the proposal is accepted and things go down the line, then that would launch a formal capital campaign at the point where that's necessary.
Yeah.
This program as a way to teach people how to integrate with the community and how to be good neighbors, it's going to be pretty, right? I mean, you see what I'm saying? So there's sort of like it'll work, it doesn't, but I think on a technical level, it's going to be an agreement between these three nonprofits who own this building and own that land, that the sort of town opinion, I think, will play a really big role. It's hard to know because there's a lot of things that can take more time. I would say there's no way we're getting anything done in under 2.5 or 3 years. And I think that's probably pretty optimistic, like a best case scenario kind of thing. Two bodies in California that deal with accreditation. The first is called WASC, which stands for the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, and they're basically the main accrediting group. And then the UC system, their college entry requirements actually are what are used to evaluate most high school courses, and they have a system called UC's A through G requirements. So by satisfying those requirements, your credits basically become transferable to any public school, charter school, private school, whatever it is. And that's a process that all schools go through, but it basically involves writing up what the courses are and demonstrating that they're rigorous. And then
You have an
they get it.
accreditation process you still have to do, but there was no approval by the Contra Costa County Board or the Education.
No, it's an interesting question though. So part of what a lot of these semester schools do is work with school districts to sort of streamline the ease of transferring the credits. So part of some of our kind of outreach work is connecting with various charter schools in the region, different independent schools and different public schools. Ridges helped connect us with John Sweat to sort of examine further and explore how that relationship could work. So does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Phase is to figure out what are the community needs or desires that we might be able to answer, right? And so, I mean, I think my big answer is we can figure out together what things are wants, and we can figure out if we can build ways into our proposal to satisfy those.
But
Yeah.
so the platform that has been kind of set.
So yeah, in terms of this structure and it being a community resource, there's obviously just some sort of finishing work that needs to be done. We've also talked about like we would need to have a kitchen, so putting in a community kitchen. But basically the idea would be to finish this building, to make it, auditorium, finished classrooms, and certain amounts of the building this is what we've been thinking about all along, and it would have to get worked out. But that like certain parts of the building would be available always, 24/7, 365 days a year for the community, and the rest of it would be scheduled out. So when the kids aren't here on a weekend, obviously full domain, when the kids are here, we figure out what classrooms they're gonna need, what classrooms the schools need. So from that standpoint, it was just, you know, there's the material improvement to this building.
But in your initial funding, it involves restoring the rest of this building?
Yes. A group called the Hyphae Design Lab, and they're a sort of very radical, ecologically focused architecture firm, an environmental engineering firm, and landscaping firm that's based out of Oakland. And their whole approach to any sort of design thinking is to start with the ecology, right? And that's really why we've kind of enlisted their help in this project, is not just to send it off to an environmental engineer who's sort of unrelated to everything and an outside consultant, but to have at the center of putting together this proposal, someone who starts with this understanding the environment and uses that as sort of the core for what they're planning going forward.
Repeat the name.
Sure. Yeah, right up here. It's called the Hyphae Design Lab, which has kind of a funny spelling. So, Hyphae is the network that lives underground in mushrooms. That's correct.